Good morning. My name is Chima Christian. So the aim of this press conference is to draw attention to certain organizational and operational challenges that may impact the outcome and the credibility of the 2023 general elections. Through this press conference, the DGG, by that I mean the Diaspora for Good Governance, aspires to ignite a national conversation, really, a national dialogue among various stakeholders, including the government, the political parties, their campaign councils, the civil society organizations, our development partners, business community, the media, scientific community, and indeed the general populace. Our hope is that we are able to mobilize their input to support Inec and strengthen Inec systems and technical competencies, and to motivate commitment at the highest level to promote better management of the 2023 elections. So, some of us here are aware of the CVR exercise that ended June 2022, and the exercise started June 2021 to July 2022. When we looked at the CVR data that was released by Inec, we noticed that 49.3% of all the 1.78 million Nigerians that were invalidated were coming from the South, South, and the Southeast regions. Other regions of the country had an average rejection rate of 17%, whereas the Southeast and the South-South had an average rejection rate of 35.2%, almost twice that of the national average. And we have looked at the data, and Inec says it's used ABIS system to do the invalidation based on the 3 criteria it listed on its website, one of which is double or multiple registrations, the second is visibly underage registrations, and the third is outrightly fake registrations that did not meet Inec business rules. And we looked at these systems, and we found that the ABIS is not as credible and as efficient as advertised. One key example is to be found in the voter register that was just displayed. In that voter register, Nigerians saw multiple incidences of underage registrations, outrightly fake registrations, and some of those registrations that did not meet Inec business rules. And the DGG is saying that with a compromised voter register, that the elections cannot be credible. And if Inec is advertising ABIS as a software that it's used to process all those registration requests, then what the voter register is suggesting to us is that the ABIS software is not as efficient as advertised, because that same software that invalidated 1.78 million Nigerians, which I've told you that 49.3% of them are from 2 regions of the Southeast and the South-South, curiously failed to track and eliminate the multiple incidences of the underage voters, as we can see from the voter register that is displayed. It is on that we are calling on Inec and Nigerians to subject these systems to multi-stakeholder audit and integrity tests, because the only thing Nigerians know about these systems are what Inec has told us. We now know that ABIS system, the AFIS system, the BIVA system, that they are not as efficient as advertised, as evidenced by the multiple incidences of underage and outrightly fake registrations on the voter register. And then we are simulating a situation where if the Southeast and the South-South presented an anomaly in the voter invalidation data by disobeying or disagreeing with the national average of 17%, and they have an average, regional average between the two of 35.2, we are simulating a situation, for instance,
recording in progress,
where we have an average voting center polling unit in, say, Borno State, which has a voting strength of 500, and then out of 500, 300 show up on the election day for verification. And ABIS and BIVA system is able to verify 295 of those people. And then say a random polling station of equal voting strength anywhere in the Southeast or the South-South present the same 500 voters, and then 300 people show up for verification, and ABIS is able to verify only, say, 150 of those. So we're imagining a situation where the ABIS can be made to work, the BIVAs can be made to work like the ABIS, in the sense that it is not producing the same national average, that there are averages where the abyss seems to be working well, and there are places where it seems not to be working well. So calling this press conference is to draw attention to these issues and to insist that the beavers will be subjected to a multi-stakeholder independent audit. Not just the beavers, the abyss, the AFIS system, the IRF system, the voter register, and indeed all the whole gamut of the systems, because with a compromised voter register and with invisibly, because INEC did not provide clear justifications as to why the Southeast and the South-South had high rejection rates. So if INEC's abyss system rejected a whole lot of voters from the Southeast and the South-South, we are suspecting that the beavers will also fail to accredit high level of voters from Southeast and South-South. So we are calling on INEC and Nigerians to invite INEC to subject all these systems to a credible multi-stakeholder integrity test to ascertain its authenticity, and for Nigerians to place implicit confidence in the ability of those systems to hold credible elections in 2023. The second point is that we have looked at the PVC distribution data, and we have agents working on the ground, and we have seen that, for instance, in some local governments in Sokoto State, we have seen complaints from our field agents that INEC is engaged. INEC, by INEC, we mean their field staff now, is engaged in discriminatory practices of issuing PVCs to indigents and withholding PVCs of non-indigents in certain regions. We have also had this from people in Lagos and in some other parts of Nigeria. So we're calling on INEC, if indeed INEC has printed PVCs, why is it distributing PVCs according to region, according to place of origin, or according to the name on the PVCs? So these are some of the issues that might technically compromise the elections. And finally, it is our belief that Nigeria has made significant improvements in election management and electoral laws since 1999, when we started this democratic experiment. But it is not yet a hurry, because from Togri, we moved to Supreme Court snatching of ballot papers. Today, we are in a place where INEC, through its systems, can technically suppress the votes of some regions and confer undue advantages on some regions. I've explained to you that the voter invalidation data suggests that INEC, without good explanation, is attempting to suppress the votes of some regions. And we're also telling you that the PVC distribution efforts of INEC, and with the complaints that we're receiving, suggest also that through PVC distribution, that INEC can technically alter the votes of Nigerians in the coming elections. And one more thing is that the BIVA software only records, is an efficient software, but it can be improved upon. Because one of the key faults of that system is that it only records the number of concluded accreditations. That is, at the end of elections, at the end of each polling unit, all you see is total number of accredited voters. But from what we saw in Anambra elections, what we saw in Ekiti and Osun off-season elections, there were a lot of people who presented validly issued INEC PVCs, and INEC beavers could not accredit them. So we're saying that INEC should upgrade these systems to capture number of attempted accreditations, so that when we finish the elections, Nigerians can indeed say that out of 100 people who attempted their accreditations, 50 were successfully accredited, so that we can look at the success or the failure rate of the beavers. And then we can subject that data to national and statewide spread, so that as we looked at the invalidation data from the abyss, then we're also able to look at the invalidation data from the beavers to see that indeed that the whole nation is presenting the same average. But if we see anomaly, like we have seen in the voter invalidation data, then that suggests that the elections might have been technically compromised. So we are calling on INEC to upgrade that system, the beavers, to also include, in addition to the number of successful accreditations, to include the number of attempted accreditations. Thank you so very much, and at this point we welcome your questions. The first question is, how did we obtain the data? The data we processed and presented to you is not our own data. It is INEC officially released data. After the CVR exercise concluded, INEC presented a data on its official social media handles to do a state-by-state breakdown of how many invalidations they did by state. For instance, Bayelsa State had 69.2% of invalidation. Ebonyi State had 59.8%. Ekiti State had 38.8%. Rivers State had 33.0%. Anambra had 30.6%. Delta had 29.4. And like I mentioned, the states in the South is present and the South have presented the highest number of invalidation. Conversely, the states in the North presented the least number of invalidation. That these two regions disobeyed with the national aggregates. Now, you're saying, can I see that the high rate of invalidation in those two regions is a proof to the efficiency of Inec systems? And I say to you, all you have to look at is the voter register that was displayed by Inec. We saw high incidences, whereas there are underage voters in all the regions. That is accepted. But we had high incidence of underage and outrightly fake registrations, predominantly in the North. And so if your argument is as to efficiency, it will then appear that Inec is more efficient in the South than it is in the North. And that conclusion will be egregious to arrive at. Someone talked about voter education. It is also a given that the South generally lags behind the North in terms of voter education. But if you look at mixed survey and mixed data that was released in 2022, you would then see that it is curious that the region with the highest level of adult literacy is presenting the highest level of voter invalidation. And then the region with the lowest level of adult literacy is presenting, high region of adult literacy, right, is presenting the least efficiency in terms of voter invalidation. So it seems like for Nigeria, the more you learn, the more you are prone to making mistakes when you are imputing your data on Inec. And that in itself, we are asking Inec to provide justifications for those. In terms of insecurity, as of today, there is insecurity in all the regions. If you looked at this data that was released by StatiSense 2 days ago, the South underperformed, or at least outperformed, the North outperformed the South in terms of number of successful kidnappings. And then in the number of deaths. That is a survey that was released by StatiSense. It's still on their websites now. So the Southeast has insecurity, the Northeast has insecurity, the Northwest has insecurity, the South-South, where you know that although there's a negotiated peace in the South-South, but there are non-state actors still armed to the teeth and operational in the South-South, including in the Southwest. So if all the regions in Nigeria has insecurity, then insecurity cannot be a question. And again, that brings me to the point that it is, if you look at all the Inec offices, the 8 of them that were attacked in 2022, they are disproportionately located in one geopolitical zone. Disproportionately located in one geopolitical zone. So you ask yourself, there is insurgency, there is banditry, there is Boko Haram, there is ISIS, there is a lot of things. Why are Inec facilities better protected in those regions and then not protected in some other regions? So the answers are up in the air, and Inec chairman of Commissioner for Voter Education, Festus Okoye, has said that attack on Inec offices are politically motivated. He said this on a live television program. The governor of Imo State has said that the attacks on Inec facility are politically motivated. These two are state actors. And for them to arrive at that conclusion, there is a data they have that we don't have. Now the question we ask them based on the data they have is, who stands to gain when Inec offices in one particular geopolitical zone are disproportionately attacked? Who stands to gain? Who are the political motivators? And who stands to gain from such attacks? Inec has to provide those answers.
Is there another question?
Let me tell you about some of our interventions, because when Inec released this data, especially the data on the CVR exercise, we engaged them and there is evidence of engagement. We released this data and we asked Inec to provide clear justifications for this data. In return, Inec hosted a Twitter space where they came to make justifications for this. And this same speaker, when he was offered a platform to ask questions, when we asked questions on the Twitter space that was hosted by Inec shut down the Twitter space and deleted the recording. We have screenshots and evidences of this. So we have been asking these questions long before now. Answers were not provided. And every day you hear on the TV that Inec is telling Nigerians to inspire their confidence on the credibility of these platforms. But we're saying less than 50 days to the election, Inec cannot tell the journalists in this room that they have cleaned up the voter register And we are saying with a compromised voter register, you cannot conduct a credible elections. With a compromised or possibly compromised voter invalidation, you cannot have a credible elections. And if you don't address this technical rigging, or possible technical rigging, then the elections is up in the air. So look, gone are the days when you have to snatch ballot boxes to win elections in Nigeria. Gone are the days. Today you don't have to snatch ballot boxes. All you have is to confess some technical advantages, like I pointed out to you clearly. So Inec should provide justifications. And we're saying that for Nigerians to have implicit, Africa has had a long history with post-election violence. Africa has had a long history with post-election violence. And indeed, there is resurgence of coup d'etats in sub-Saharan Africa. Without credible elections and without the elections seen to be sufficiently credible enough, we don't know what the reaction of Nigerians might be. And so for every genuine intervention, legal intervention that should be made to be sure that those systems are subject to the belief, and every eligible voter and all Nigerians and indeed all the stakeholders have implicit confidence in the system should be done. Whether it is done a day before the elections, but we have started engaging with INEC clearly, long enough to give them enough time for this. But since those backroom channels and backroom engagements did not yield desired results, we are now calling the attention of the Nigerian public, the stakeholders, to join us in asking these critical questions.